We're talking today with Mr. Harry Kamer of Zeeland, Michigan. The interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Now, Mr. Kamer, can you begin by giving us some background on yourself?
I was born in Hudsonville area, a little town called Zutphen, and I have three brothers and also three sisters.
All right. And what was your family doing for a living at that time?
And we was living on a farm, small farm, about 60 acres, and we had cattle and chickens and stuff like that, but it was kind of a small farm deal.
Now, was your family able to keep that farm during the Depression?
Yes, they bought it, and they still owned it after the Depression.
Okay. So what was life like then in that period when you're growing up and living on the farm like that? How would you describe it?
Well, my parents were very poor, and they struggled all their life to pay for that farm because they bought it after World War I, because my father was in World War I. And so they paid a high price for that farm. So it took him years. In fact, he went back to work in a factory to pay for that farm and the farm.
Okay. Now, do you remember when he went to work in a factory? Was that in the 30s or earlier or later? Or?
That was a little later.
Okay. Kind of during the war period when there was more factory work, or before the war started, do you think?
No, it was before that that he went back to work.
All right. Now, did you finish high school?
No, I did not. I went through the 8th grade in a little rural country school.
Mm-hmm. And then when you finished the 8th grade, did you just stay and help on the farm, or did you go get a job?
Helped on the farm, yeah. And I also worked out for farmers. I remember working in a celery farmer, and that was one of the hardest work I done, trenching celery. If you've ever done any hard work, that's hard work.
You know, you're not the first person growing up on a farm to tell me that. I mean, they grew a lot of celery in the area, and it sounds like about some of the nastiest stuff you could do on a farm.
Yeah.
All right. Now, before Pearl Harbor happened, were you paying much attention to what was going on in the world? You know, the war in Europe and all that kind of thing?
No, it kind of struck us suddenly, you know, and no, I didn't think too much about it.
All right. Do you remember how you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, it was over the news in a hurry when it struck.
Now, did you hear it on the radio or see it in the paper?
On the radio, yeah.
All right. Now,
We didn't have television at that time, I don't think.
Right. Yeah. Now, when that happened, did you think, because you're about, what, 18 at that point, you think, okay, there's a war going, I'm going to get in it?
Well, I kind of figured I'd be drafted, yeah.
Okay. Now, it took them until 1943 to get around to drafting you.
Yeah.
Did you have a deferment because you're working on the farm, or did it just take them that long?
No, it took that long before I got drafted.
Okay. Did any of your brothers get a deferment to work on the farm? Or?
No, my oldest brother, he went to the Air Force, and he worked in the ground crew.
Okay. So you guys were not, basically they called you and you went.
Yeah.
All right. Now, roughly when did you get your draft notice? Is that summer of 43 or
Yeah.
earlier than that?
It was in that early part of that year.
Okay, February 43,
Yeah.
I guess we got on the draft papers here.
Yeah.
All right, February 43. Now, where did they send you first?
I was to Fort Sheridan, Chicago.
And what did they do?
Illinois.
Right,
Yeah.
and what did you do there?
That I just had interviews and so forth, and then they shipped me to Fort McClellan, Alabama. That's where I got my basic training.
All right. Now, can you describe that base a little bit? What kind of place was it?
Fort McClellan was kind of a hilly country, and we really went through the mill. They really did a lot of exercising and walking. And
Were you in pretty good shape for that kind of thing? Because of your farm
yeah,
work? And,
I was then. Yes, yeah.
okay.
I took all the hikes that we had to take and everything.
All right. Now, did they put a lot of emphasis on Army discipline, learning to follow orders and that kind of thing?
Yes, they did. I mean, they were strict. Yeah.
And how well did you adjust to that?
Oh, I adjusted to it okay. I did my work that I had to do.
All right. How did the drill sergeants treat you generally?
How'd I what?
How did the drill sergeants treat you? And were they fair or mean?
Yeah, yeah, they were okay. They were okay.
Now, were there some other men in your unit who were having a hard time with either the discipline or the physical training?
Not that I recall. Not that I recall.
All right. Now, about how long did you spend in basic?
I think it was about 6 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
All right. Now, did you stay at Fort McClellan for advanced training, or did they move you somewhere
No,
else?
they moved me back to Illinois, and then from there I went to Norfolk, Virginia.
All right. And what were you doing there?
There I waited for the ship to go to Africa.
Okay. So you're training just as a replacement already.
Yeah.
You're not going over with a unit. You're just by
No,
yourself.
just as a replacement.
So 6 weeks, and then they load you up on the ship.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how were they moving you around the country? How did you get from Illinois down to Alabama?
On railroad.
Okay. About how long did it take to get from one end of one of those trips to the other? Was it a slow trip?
It was a slow trip to Africa too, because every half an hour they changed courses because of submarines.
Right. What kind of ship were you on when they were sending you to Africa?
It was a big, troop ship, they called it.
Now, was it built as a troop ship, or was it a converted ocean liner?
It was an ocean liner.
Okay. Now, did you sail by yourself, or were you in a convoy?
No, we was all by ourselves. Yeah.
Because some of the ocean liners were pretty fast, and so they thought they could outrun the U-boats, and they just went by themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how long did it take you to get across the Atlantic?
2 weeks.
Okay. So that's still a very long trip.
Yeah.
Now, what was the weather like when you were going across?
Wasn't too bad. I didn't get seasick, so I endured it all right.
All right. Did you have any U-boat scares or warnings while going over?
No, not like going over. No.
Okay. Not at least not they're telling you about. All right. Now, when you got to North Africa, where did you land?
In Casablanca.
All right. Now, what did you see when you got off the ship?
Oh boy, very poor people living on the streets and so forth, and didn't have much at all. It was a poor country.
Okay. Now, did they load you right up and move you off someplace when you landed, or did you stay in Casablanca for a while?
No, we didn't stay very long there.
Okay.
No, they was at Sicily when we landed in Africa. So we was there for a while because they already went to Solano after that, and that was established before we even went.
All right. Now, did they move you someplace else in Africa? Did they send you farther east, or did you just wait in Casablanca?
No, we just waited there.
Okay. Because your records have you, I guess, you land in Africa kind of late July, and the Salerno landings are early September. So you've got a month or so.
Yeah, we just stayed in Africa.
Okay, you stayed in Africa. So during that time, what did you do? You're there for a number of weeks?
Just train.
Okay. Did they warn you at all about dealing with the local population, or did they keep you all in camp, or?
No, not that I know.
Okay. Well, did you get to go into the town at all, or see anything?
No.
Okay. So you just stayed in, were you in tents at that point, or? Okay. Now, was it hot then? So that was,
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
like
in
August,
Africa
yeah.
it was hot. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So you're there for a certain amount of time. Not a whole lot of stuff happening at this point. Now, do you know who you're going to join or where you're going to go?
No, no, they didn't tell us.
Okay.
No.
All right. Now, when the time came to go, did they move you all as a group and take you to Italy?
Yeah.
Okay. And then how did you get over to Italy then? Did you load on ships in Casablanca? Or?
With a ship, and we got off the ship with the barges,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went to shore on that.
Okay.
Barges.
Like, to get the ship from the barge, did you have to climb down nets or
Yeah,
something like
right.
that? All right. Was that dangerous or was it pretty calm?
No, I don't recall it being dangerous.
Okay. Because if there's high enough seas or something, it's a little tricky. But if it's not too bad, then you're all right. And then where did they land you?
It was Salerno.
Okay, you went to Salerno. All right. And then once they landed you there,
Yeah.
then what happened?
Wow, then they promoted us to the units
And what
of the
unit?
34th Division.
Okay. So you joined the 34th Division, and what unit within it did you join?
The infantry,
Okay, so I think it was 168th Regiment was.
68th, yeah.
All right. And were you assigned just to a rifle company or something else?
Anti-tank company.
Okay. Now, what kind of anti-tank equipment did they have? Did they have anti-tank guns or tank destroyers? Or?
Wow, they was on 2 wheels.
Okay, so they were towed anti-tank guns.
Yeah,
And,
towed around, yeah.
and what was your job with the unit?
Well, my job was to operate that anti-tank gun.
Okay. Now, what size gun was it? Do you remember? Was it a little one like a 37 or maybe a 76 millimeter longer gun?
I think it was a 37 millimeter.
Okay. That was a fairly small gun
Yeah,
and wasn't going to do much to a German tank.
no,
All right. But they're still using 37s
Yeah,
in late
right.
43. Okay. Had you had any training on that weapon in basic?
no, not
Okay.
really.
All right. Now, and did they give you any training on it once you joined the unit? Or did they just figure, we'll tell you what to do?
No, no.
All right. So you've given a job for which you don't have any actual training.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And then was the unit you were joining, was that one that had a bunch of guys who'd been there a long time, or were most of them new?
Yeah, there was a lot of them that were there with the unit. Yeah,
Okay. So they knew what they were doing.
just a replacement.
Right.
So
But there were not a lot of you coming into that particular unit?
not a lot of
Right.
them. No,
Right. Most of them probably go and join the rifle companies.
just those to replace.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, how long was it before they sent you into action?
Quite soon.
Okay. And then can you describe sort of going up to the front or getting involved in combat for the first time?
Well, I remember Cassino very well
Mm-hmm.
because I was up in there, and I remember when we got shelled, and it was at night, dark, and I got lost because we dispersed all over, and I didn't know where I was. So I didn't even get back to my unit. In fact, I got sick because of the weather conditions. It was rainy and cold, fall weather like we get here. So I ended up back and to be treated. So I remember that
Okay.
very well.
Now, at the time that you got shelled and this happened, were you deployed in a line position or were you in the rear someplace waiting for orders or?
Wow, we was going up the path.
Okay,
up
so
the
you were
mountain,
moving,
yeah.
you were advancing. All right, so you're on the, yeah. And so you scatter because you were not dug in, you don't have cover.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
and so you just kind of take off, and then you
Right.
get sick. Now, how long did it take for them to figure out where you were? Your own unit.
I didn't know where I was,
Mm-hmm.
really. I was on kind of a lost in no man's land.
Right. Now, do you remember how you got found? Did you just walk into a unit
No,
someplace, or just
I
wake
don't
up in
know
a
how
hospital?
I got back to where I was supposed to.
Okay, I'm just going to pause this and let her. So you don't remember too much, except that you
No.
kind of woke up in a hospital, or
No, I didn't end up at the hospital at that time.
okay.
No, I was treated.
So where were you treated? Just in somebody's camp
I
someplace?
was at a dispensary.
Okay.
What they call that.
All right. And about how long were you out? How long were you sick?
I didn't go back again. That because then we was taken off the front line there to get ready to go to Anzio Beach.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned before we started the interview that in the Cassino area you had concerns about spies or people
Yeah.
reporting your positions. What did you know about that? What can you tell me about that?
Well, it seemed like every time there was troop movement going up there, the Germans would shell, artillery and mortar shells and so forth. So evidently, they finally found somebody, a spy, that was radioing the Germans whenever there was troop movement.
Okay. So that
So they got him. And I don't know what they did with him, but they got him.
now, was that something that people just told you later on, or did you know that?
Now, I heard about it later, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when you rejoined your unit,
Yeah.
where were they? Were they up at Anzio yet, or were they still back in the Cassino area?
I don't recall if I think we went back to Naples.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Naples, we went to Anzio.
Right. So you're with your unit then when they're doing that.
Right.
Okay. Do you remember anything about what Naples looked like, or what condition the harbor was in, or anything like that?
Well, it was a nice city. The hospital was nice. I spent 3 months there, so I know.
All right. Now, in this first phase there, when you're in Italy, did you see much of the Italians at all? Any of the civilians around?
No, I didn't.
Because you wouldn't have seen a lot up at Cassino, and then you're out again pretty quickly. Okay. Now, when they took you up to Anzio, then,
Yeah.
what do you remember about that? They land you there, and what did you do?
Well, they already had established it when we went up to
Mhm.
Anzio. But then we, squad of just 5 of us, we were employed in an outpost way up in the front lines.
Mm-hmm.
And there, we couldn't even stick our heads out of the hole during the daytime because we were so close to the Germans. And so we had to get our food at night. And I don't think I shaved for 2-3 weeks. As long as I was there, we couldn't wash up, we couldn't shave, we couldn't do anything.
Okay. Now, did you have an anti-tank gun with you, or was it just 5 guys?
Five guys.
Okay.
And we was in a dugout. And so it was very crowded, so we had to all day one way to be in there, to be normal.
Yeah. Now, how long did they have you up there?
Oh, we was there until we got wounded.
And how long was that? Days, weeks?
I'd say weeks.
Okay. Is it just this kind of continuous pattern of just staying under cover? Now,
Yeah.
could you see anything from the dugout? Could you see the Germans or anything?
No. We stayed put. Yeah.
Did you have a radio or something you could use to communicate with the rear?
No, no,
So you're an
Yeah.
outpost, but you don't have a way of reporting back?
no.
So what were you supposed to do?
I don't really know what we was up there for, you know. Of course, we had our rifles,
Mm-hmm.
so I guess for protection.
Yeah. I guess if somebody came, you could shoot at them, and
Yeah,
maybe
right.
somebody back there would hear you. Okay. But you're just up in an outpost line. Now, was the country that you were looking at, was it fairly flat in the area
Yes,
that you
it
were?
was flat up there.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And there were hills farther back someplace,
No,
but
no,
you
there
were
was-
kind of in the flat area.
yeah.
All right. Now, how was it then that you wound up getting wounded? Because you said you never saw the Germans.
Hey, it was that night, and the good thing has happened at night.
Mm-hmm.
The mortar shell landed in the hole by us and exploded.
Mm-hmm.
But good thing we was all laying that one way, so it got all of us got it in our feet and legs, and then it went over us
Mm-hmm.
because we was laying down. And a good thing it happened at night because we would never got out of there.
Okay. So were you able to walk, or where were you?
Yeah, I was able to walk, but really I was hurt.
Okay.
I know our sergeant, he had big chunks taken right out of his leg.
So did you have to help him out?
Yeah, good thing we had jeeps to take us back.
Okay. So you had a jeep someplace nearby then?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, so that couldn't have been out in the open though, where the Germans could see it, or was it?
I don't know. I don't know if it was hidden somewhere.
All right. But you were able to get back to a jeep.
We were able to get back to the, they call it
Like an aid station, or?
station in
Yeah.
the field hospital,
Mhm.
you'd call it.
All right. Now, how badly were you hurt?
Well, I had shrapnel, so I had 2 operations.
Was that to take the shrapnel out of the leg or the
Yeah,
foot, or?
they had to take the shrapnel
Okay. And then, how long were you laid up?
out. Well, I was in the hospital 3 months, and then I was convalescent 3 months.
Okay.
So I was laid up for 6 months.
And in that period when you were convalescent, did that mean you could get up and move around? And,
Yeah, right.
But
Just get back in shape.
okay. So what did you do during those 3 months of convalescence? Did they have any kind of exercise for you, or?
Yeah, exercising and some training. Yeah.
Okay. And where were you doing this?
That was outside of Naples in an area.
Okay. Now, did you get to go into Naples at all and just take a look around? And
Yeah, I did get to pass to go to Naples once, yeah.
now, was there much to do there?
No, not much, no.
Okay.
Because you don't know the language, so.
So you weren't necessarily interested in the drinking or the women, which are probably the main things that they had there.
Yeah.
All right. Now, did you get to go to Pompeii? Because Pompeii is right next to Naples, the old Roman ruins.
No, I didn't get to the.
Okay. All right. So you really spend most of your time out in the camp outside of
Right.
the town. All right. Then, so you're out for 6 months. So kind of from somewhere early in '44 down kind of well into the summer,
Right.
and then you rejoin your unit.
Right.
Okay. Now by then, were they north of Rome? Was that?
Yeah, they was
Okay.
way in Po Valley.
All right.
And it was just about over with then.
Okay. Do you have a feeling for what time of year it was? Was it kind of cold and wet when you joined them, or?
Well, they had weather a lot like Michigan, you know. Yeah. It got cold in the fall and
Mhm.
rainy.
Yep.
And
All
then when you get all wet and you just, it's hard living that way.
Now, when you joined your unit, did you move around much, or did you stay in one place most of the time?
Well, we kept moving. And we moved so fast that at one time German planes came and they was going to, you know, strafe or whatever the front lines, and the artillery had moved up that far already, and they really got hit.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the pilots. That's how close the planes
Wow.
came. And one bomb landed that you could put a truck in.
Mm-hmm.
That's how deep the hole was.
Okay. Now, do you remember anything about the planes? Do they have one engine or two engines?
They was small planes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So fighter
Yeah.
bombers, probably.
Yeah, fire bombers. That's what they were.
Right.
Yeah.
And you didn't see any American planes anyplace?
No, no. But the artillery really knocked them out of the skies.
So you had anti-aircraft guns there? So the artillery, the anti-aircraft artillery?
They had the artillery right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, were there other occasions where you did see American planes going overhead, or either bombers or fighters or anything like that?
No, no.
Okay. Now, were you still with the anti-tank company at this time, or were you just with a line unit by then?
I was with the infantry at that
Okay.
time. Yeah.
All right. Now, did you do much actual fighting in that time?
No, no. But I did hear bullets pass my head more
Right.
than once.
Now, did you spend time sort of in foxholes or dugouts up along the front?
Yes.
All right. But did you participate in any attacks where you had to move forward and go after the enemy?
No, no, I didn't have to. No.
So when you did move from place to place, would you walk or would they put you on trucks?
Well, we had a truck that we could use, yeah.
Mhm.
6x6,
Right.
they call them.
Okay. Now, do you remember much about the men in the squad that you were with? Were these all new guys now for you?
Well, there was 3 of us that got wounded at Anzio,
Mm-hmm.
out of the 5. But then when I joined it later, after 6 months, those 2 was killed during that time. I
Mhm.
wasn't with them,
Mm-hmm.
so so I didn't see them again.
Right. So it's pretty much new men now, and not. Yeah. All right. Now, in this later phase, did you see much of the civilian population at all? Do you see the Italians around anymore
I
than
was
before?
fortunate. I got to see Rome, and I got to see Genoa and
Mm-hmm.
different cities. Yeah.
What attitude did the Italians seem to have toward the Americans, as far as you could tell?
I tell you, it didn't have that much. I mean, kind of a low-class country, I'd say.
But were they friendly or hostile, or they just kept to themselves, or?
They were all right. I mean, they didn't bother us.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the places where you'd stay in place for a while, did any of them come around and do any work for the unit or anything like that?
No, we didn't meet the Italians anywhere either.
All right. Now, do you remember where you were when the Germans surrendered? Were you still in the Po Valley area, or?
I remember that the war was over, and that if you had enough points, you could go home.
Hmm.
So I was fortunate. I had enough points that I didn't have to stay for occupation.
Right. Okay. Now, in the time there when you were at the end of the war, did you see any German prisoners at that point?
Oh yes, in fact, we was hauling some that we actually on the Po Valley there.
Can you describe that a little bit? I mean, what were you doing? Were you loading them into trucks and taking them somewhere? Or?
Yeah, we had them on our trucks.
Okay. Do you remember anything about what they looked like? or how old they were, or anything like that?
No, but I remember the Gestapos, they were very mean.
Mm-hmm.
They even lined up children and women and mowed them down with machine guns, because I've seen that.
So you saw places where civilians had been killed, or?
Yeah, right.
So as you were advancing in different places in Italy,
And we seen that.
they
Yeah.
had been there before you. All right. Now, when you captured Germans, were they all just in the regular army uniforms?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't have the SS or
No.
those units?
No.
Okay. Now, did the regular German soldiers make much of an impression on you at all? Did they just look like you, or?
Well, we looked like regular people, you know. I mean, they probably were there because they were called to do just like we were,
Mhm.
you know, to defend their country.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And did they behave themselves as you were
yeah,
moving around?
yeah, they didn't have no problem with them at all.
Did you have a sense of how many of them you were dealing with? I mean, was there a large group of them that your unit was working with, or?
No, we had about 6, 7 of them on
Okay.
that truck.
Okay, so just one truckload that
Yeah,
you're moving.
yeah.
Okay. Now, are there other things that happened or that you saw while you were in Italy that kind of stand out at all in your memory? If you think back to being over there, what do you think about?
No, I don't recall too much. I know that casino and that monastery, that was something that really struck me, you know, how the Germans used that as a outpost and had that whole Po Valley, or not Po Valley, this was a valley before.
Right, this was the Rapido Valley.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they had that all cleared out,
Mm-hmm.
so they were just there to, you know, to
Right.
get them.
Now, were you able to sort of, at some point, see the casino position itself? I mean, did you see the hill with the monastery on top and all of that?
No, I didn't. I didn't notice it. I didn't notice.
Okay. So you were moving up in that direction.
Yeah, right.
At night, at the point when you get hit.
Yeah,
So
at
before-
night, right.
Right. So
Okay.
before you really even get in there, then
Yeah.
then
So,
you get taken out.
I didn't see it at daytime. It was at night.
All right. Okay. So you get to the end of the stay, and you've gotten enough points between length of service, time overseas, being wounded, and so forth, and days in combat. That adds up,
Yeah.
and you
Right.
get your points. All right. So then how did they get you back home then?
We went back home in a ship. But it didn't take us 2 weeks to get back.
And what?
Like when we went over.
Right. You didn't have to zigzag this time.
No.
What kind of ship were you in this time?
It was a big troop ship.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Another big one, not a Liberty ship or something like that. All right. So you figure it took you like 1 week to get home rather than 2 or something like that? When you sailed out, do you remember going through the Straits of Gibraltar, either going in or going out? Could you see that either time?
No, I don't recall that. No.
Okay. But to get,
But we must have,
mm-hmm.
because we sailed from Naples.
Yep.
So
Right.
we must have went through that.
Okay. Now, when you get back to the States, where did you land?
I don't know where we landed. If it was Norfolk again, but I know I went back to Chicago for
Right.
Fort Sheridan to
Mm-hmm.
get my discharge.
Right. Okay. Now, once you got back there, did you go back home then, or?
I went back home as soon as I could, because I never got home since I left for the service
Mhm.
until I got out.
So you're gone for 3
I
years.
never got a furlough or
Yeah, over 3 years. Yeah. Yeah, because they shipped you out awfully quickly once
they
you
did.
finished basic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
replacement. They really got us over there in a hurry.
Right. All right. And then once you got back, what did you do then?
Well, I went and got a job, went back to work. I worked at Dollar Jarvis in Grand Rapids. That's where I got my job.
Okay. And did you stay with them for a long time or move
30
on?
years.
All right. Okay. When you look back at the whole thing now, how do you think your time in the service affected you? Were you different at all, or did you know more than before?
Well, I was so happy to get out that I didn't, you know, because I think I lost my hearing in World War II, and I didn't stop to do anything. I just wanted to get out, get out of there.
Yeah. How did you lose your hearing, do you think? Was there artillery fire or?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Because I guess you were close to some blasts, including
Yeah,
that.
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But do you think that you gained anything from the experience? Did you learn anything from being in the military generally that helped you later on?
Well, I give credit to those that are serving now. You know, I mean, they deserve our praise for going out there and defending our country. I mean, it really helps you think how wonderful it is that the troops are doing that. And I also had a reevaluation on my hearing and also on my wound. So I'm getting a little pension on my wound of $132 a month.
All right.
So,
So Uncle Sam didn't completely forget you then.
yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.